I'm Rob Porter. I'm from Wildcard. I used to work for Penn State at the Webline Group. And I'm here to talk to you about how you become a accessibility superhero. Well, why would I be telling you about this? I mean, Plone ships with a pretty good accessibility story. It's already pretty good. Except we start theming and putting Diazo and stuff in it, and we can make mistakes. So I want to give you some hints. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a wheelchair ramp with stairs in the bottom. Yeah. So we want to give everybody a chance to look at your website and understand it. So here, let me give you some helpful hints. First of all, use headings. A lot of people navigate with headings. Use meaningful semantic headings. Many blind readers use the headings to decide if they will read the content of the page. Also, it gives you good search engine rankings. There should be only each one per page unless you're using HTML5 and you have sections and articles. No more read more, click here stuff. When you're listening to a screen reader, you just hear read more, read more, read more, read more without context. So it needs to say something like, read more about how Plone 5 is so awesome. Or click here to download Plone 5. This one's near and dear to my heart. Make touch targets for bigger hands. I got big hands. So Apple says to use something like 44 pixels by 44 pixels. That works for me. Works well. Otherwise, I misclick, and I don't want to do that. Another helpful hint is for the hearing impaired. When you make videos, put closed captioning in them. And it's getting easier all the time to embed them into YouTube or whatever. But it's pretty easy to code. You just put a timestamp, the words you want to come up, timestamp, words you want to come up. Stop flashing people. All right. But stop doing flashes where there's 3 flashes per second or so, because my wife has epilepsy, and I can tell you she could have a seizure, and there's no button that you can stop fast enough, to keep her from having it. Test your website with your keyboard. Can you do almost everything you want to do with the keyboard? Tab, space, enter. If it doesn't work with the keyboard only, then it probably won't work with the screen reader. Also, watch out for maker menus, motor skill issues. And as always, you've heard for years, no tables unless it's for tabular data. And this is from the responsive design world, which I'm big into. Most people put this viewpoint on here, and they put maximum scale equals 1. Don't do that. Take that away so that people can zoom in and read. There's a lot of people that have vision issues with smaller text. And you made the decision what size text they're going to read. But if you take that away, then they can zoom in and see everything fine. So now I want to get into where you're probably going to mess up, is the forms. I mean it. Every single field needs a label, every one. No ifs, ands, buts about it. I mean it. Every single field needs a label. It's pretty easy to do. You just need a 4 in the ID to match. It's the only foolproof way to ensure accessible form field is to provide an explicit connected label. This also makes the whole link clickable. So for a good test, if you just click on the label, it automatically goes into the input field. Okay, what about placeholders? Well, labels can take so much room in your site, and they may look unsightly to you. I want to use placeholders. Placeholder support is fairly inconsistent with screen readers, which are used by the visually impaired to read contents of a website to them. Without labels, these visitors may not be able to complete the form properly. So, you can see there's redundancy here, and you probably don't want that either. There is a solution. If you take and you throw off the labels off the canvas with something like this, it is still read by the reader, but it's not unsightly for you. So here you can see, this is the wildcard site. The label inputs, the label's thrown off the side. If you visually use labels, it's better to stack them top to bottom. That way, if someone zooms in, they don't miss the context of what you were doing instead of doing name, form, top to bottom. The required. So HTML5 has required tag. And the convention is the star, as we've all used all our lives. But it's better to be more explicit. In the label, you can still hide it off the canvas, like we did before. But it can read out loud, name is required. Don't forget in HTML5 to put the required attribute in the input tag. It can work for validation. One of the biggest failures with forms is not sending keyboard focus to the field with an error or a list of error messages. Assistive technology users will have no idea there's something wrong with the screen reader, goes blank, or the magnifier does not move focus to the error. When nothing happens after pressing the submit button, they will assume your form is broken. So when you submit the form and there's validation issues, you should have the alert read to the screen reader, and it should go to the form input so they're not lost. Also, the best way to communicate form instructions is through the label. So here you can put the month, day, year is what you want for the date. So with radio buttons and checkboxes, they need a field set and a legend so that you know the group is together. W3C says, this allows users to understand the relationship of the controls and interact with the form more quickly and effectively. Form controls can be grouped by enclosing them within the field set element. All controls within a given field set are then related. The first element inside the field set must be a legend element, which provides a label or description for the group. Authors should avoid nesting field sets unnecessarily, as this can lead to confusion. Okay, now HTML5, you have form validation. So you normally type text. Well, now you can do type email. And type email will change the keyboard in your iOS devices or Android devices to have @ symbols and that kind of stuff. And likewise, the tel will have just numbers for telephone stuff. And then, I messed up on this one, but it's date. And the date will automatically pick up their date picker. So it's easy. Here are some other types of HTML5 validations. Next, I want to talk to you guys about modal windows. We have a lot of them in Plone. So when you activate your modal window, does it focus on the first form field? If not, it should. See if you can close it with the keyboard using the escape key. When the modal closes, does it focus back where you were? You don't want to go to the top of the window or the bottom window. The user can get lost. Make sure the close button isn't just an X. Use ARIA label that says close to close it, or a roll button. Or put button, span, close, span, X button. I should have put that on the screen. And throw it off the canvas. Here's an example of a modal window. Hopefully it shows up. It doesn't. I think this is. And here's the modal. Refresh this. So you can tab around, make sure they can tab around so you can get out. And hit the escape, you can get out of the modal altogether and continue on doing what you're doing. So what about testing tools? There's a company called DQ, and they have a Axe cross-browser add-on. It works pretty well. There's also for Firefox, FireEyes, which is a Firebug add-on, and the wave evaluation tool. So I'm going to show you FireEyes. Try controlling this over here. Where is it? I think I lost one of my bars. Yeah, I'm trying to. Why is this off the screen? All right. Here we are. So you can see on FireEyes, run it now, and my internet's not going to be that great. So it could find all the issues that you may have. It does a pretty good job, if you ask me. Got this all. And for Chrome, Google makes the Accessibility Developer Toolbar, which works pretty well. It's an add-on for their developer tools. So you can do an audit, run the audit, and it will show you many of the problems that will show up. There's bookmarklets that work across browsers. HTML Code Sniffer works really well. And then Jim Thatcher's favorites. So the Code Sniffer. Let me get rid of. Sorry, I keep losing where the mouse is. So you just go to a bookmark that you put up here, and it will tell you all the warnings, and you can view the report, and it does a pretty good job. That's nice cross-browser. You could do it in Windows. You could do it in, for IE. You could do it for Safari and that kind of stuff. So there's also color tools. The contrast analyzer will take and analyze colors for you. Let me show you that. So you can pick one of your colors from here. And the neat thing about this tool is once you pick the two colors, you can start modifying the colors and it will tell you when you pass or fail. Let's see. How do I get to white? There you go. You can tell you pass and then see how they change. It's pretty cool. That's the color contrast analyzer. Another one is Sim Daltonism. It's for Mac only as far as I know. And you can see what a page looks like for somebody with different color blindnesses. And see if everything's readable for you. It's a nice way to simulate this. So screen readers. Well, JAWS is what most blind people use. And it's like $1,000. I don't have $1,000. So I end up using NVDA, which is Python based. It's free. Maybe we can make it even better. Let me show you that real quick. So, where's my mouse? And I don't know if this will.
Homepage Windows Internet. Welcome to City Light. Welcome to City Lights. Accessible homepage Windows Internet Explorer. Welcome to City Lights. Accessible
and you can
heading at level 1 elsewhere on the web heading level 2.
You can go through headings. You can go through headings. You can go through links. You can go through all the ways that they go through a website, and it's a good representation of what JAWS shows. You can also
System promote NVDA. Exit OK.
all right, so now I can show you also there's VoiceOver for the Mac.
VoiceOver on Keynote. How you can become an accessibility superhero. Window. Slide. Layout area has keyboard focus.
Now it's showing this side over here.
Size items within Firefox. Dialog vertical line jQuery UI. Window. Link. jQuery plugin registry. HTML link. 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 jQuery link. Suzel. List 5 items. Link.
So you could use the
You are currently on HTML content. VoiceOver off.
if you have a Mac, you could use the screen reader to represent really pretty closely what you want. And there's different ways you can go around the headings and that kind of stuff. It also works with your iPhones or iPads. You can VoiceOver on. So I should have waited till I ended it. All right. So the way that somebody goes through the iPhone is usually they like swipe left to right.
Training. Link. Talks. Visited. Link.
And you're not hearing it. Let me try.
Agenda. Visited. Buy tickets. Link. PDF. Heading level 1.
But they can also change like headings and that stuff by a twist of their hands. I wish I could show you. So it changes the words, the headings, the links, and then they can keep going. Let's see. Thanks.
tape. Headings.
There we go,
5
headings.
headings. Equals. Heading level 2. Thanks. Heading level 2. Equals. Heading level 2. Heading not found.
And my friends that are blind, that's how they use their iPhones. They like it a lot. Android has the talkback. I never used it, so I have no idea how good it is. So for testing screen readers, you gotta have to use the right browsers with the right tool. So JAWS, I don't have it on here, but JAWS was made to work with Internet Explorer. And NVDA was made to use Firefox. And Safari with VoiceOver, mobile Safari with VoiceOver, and Firefox with TalkBack. So there's a guy named Paul J. Adams. The standard that we try to follow is WCAG 2 AA. He makes this web page. We can go through and do the checklist, and it shows you the W3 pages that give you descriptions of each thing. And you can select, 1A, do 2A, 3A. So, ARIA. So, this thing could take its own session. But I want to say, if you did everything I set up to now and use HTML5, you probably don't need it very much. If you're doing some fancy, weird, dynamic stuff, and you want to change like a div into a button or something crazy, that's when you use ARIA. A lot of times you can get redundancies, button, roll, button. You don't really want to do that kind of stuff. You want to use, in my opinion, you want to use HTML5 if you can. ARIA was originally meant to complement HTML 4.0 and XHTML1, and HTML5 was developed in parallel. Roles, states, properties were bound to overlap, but got more defined behaviors in browsers for HTML5. So this is where I tell you that you really, really need to test. Make some friends. Make some friends that have these issues and test them with them. Maybe not the epilepsy person, but test with them. Bring them out for beer and wings. Get to know them. Ask them questions about their lives. They're very cool. Take Michelle. We've been friends for about 3 years. She was blind from birth. She was hired on at Penn State when it was sued by the National Foundation of the Blind. She's very cool. She's engaged to Brent to be married in the next year. She has done demos for the Plone Symposium East. And I asked her how she normally surfs the web. I have to get the quote. Turn off VoiceOver.
VoiceOver off. Okay, I turned off VoiceOver.
Thank you. All right. She says, I usually go through most of the pages using the arrows and kind of skim through the page. Depending on what JAWS reads about the page in the beginning, I sometimes look through the headings first, if I know there are enough of them to navigate with. I honestly rarely use skip to links. On occasion, she uses Braille, but it's quite noisy. She uses the default speed settings on her devices. Next, I want to talk about another friend of mine named Luis. He wasn't blind when he was born. He didn't go completely blind until he was around 21, which is about 10 years ago. So he was used to his flip phone. He knew exactly where the keys were. So he didn't want to let go of that. The screen died, that didn't matter to him. He just kept using the screen, and he would text people, and you hit the B key 2 times to get this letter, and well, it finally died. So he got an iPhone. Then he bought an iPad. This is a Mustang he had before he went blind. And this is a couple weeks ago, he got engaged, and they had pictures taken, and he had me drive his Mustang for him. It's a manual. He's a car nut. He helped me work on my car to fix the crankshaft position sensor. I was a little nervous at first, but he knew his way around the engine. You know, he turned the wrenches with the best of them. This Mustang's nice. I got to drive it. Since I was the only person he knew that could drive the manual in town, that's why he asked me. It's totally changed his life, the iPhone, the iPad. Now he can know if there's ambient light. There's an app for that. Now he knows what dollar bills he has, instead of doing tricks like folding them this way or that way. Here's what he had to say. He used to tap around when he first started, JAWS. Now he uses landmarks, but mostly he doesn't use it, so he may skip to naturally without looking at to number 2. Okay. He opens up a link list view first to see if it has 30 or less links. He does a headings view, which is insert F6. Quick as outline. JAWS goes to the heading, then tab or arrow down word for word. Then he will use the key tips. H for heading, T for F for form. And then the iPhone, he uses the rotator like I was doing for shortcuts. He does the right or left flick to go through each thing. He doesn't use skip to navigation either. Interesting thing about him is he uses the speak speed to be 78%. And that is freaking fast. I don't understand any words that's coming out of it. But I think of it as like the visual person scans a web page and knows really quickly what they want. But I cannot pick out any words, and he just knows them. He said he wants to get up to like 85% if he can. Just crazy. So that day he asked me to point his car in the middle of a road so he could do a burnout.
Okay.
I was in the passenger seat. I had to tell him to stop, but it was really cool. So I have to ask you, do you guys have any questions now? Or things I could show in more detail? I didn't think I was going to have enough time to go through all the different add-ons and things. So I think there's a microphone over here. If anybody has any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Let you guys pass this around.
I was a bit surprised by the help text in the label. Can you explain a bit about that?
Sure. So in a label, if you put down what you really want, like in that case, it was the year, the day, the month, they can understand what you want. You want it in 2-digit, 4 digits. Or you want anything laid out, special instructions, and it would read it out to them. And it should also be in a label that people can see. But if you want to hide your labels, you could throw it off canvas.
Yeah, okay. So, but any help text should go into the label as well then? So you just wrap it, or?
Yeah, I would. Does anybody have any other opinion? Paul's not going to be like I'm crazy.
Because most form layouts that I see have that in a separate paragraph or something?
Right.
Like next to the field or?
Right, but I think it's sort of disassociated sometimes. I think when you put it in the label, it's more clear.
Okay. And I don't know for sure, but can you nest the elements? Like, can you still use a paragraph tag in a label? I don't know if that's valid markup.
I don't know if you can either. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Because I can imagine that you want to keep styling if you want to have them. You know.
So you're thinking you're going to have a really long paragraph for your...
No, like in Plone, there's a lot of labels, which the label's quite short, and then there's this gigantic help text. And it seems kind of silly to have that in the label too. Because a help text is something different than a label.
Right, but the label's explaining what's in the input. So, I don't know, the convention, it seems to me, by accessibility blogs, seems to say, put it inside the label.
And when you have an error in your input, and you put that also in the label.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Other questions? So how does Plone 5 do, in your opinion?
I think the editing interface needs some love, personally. But I'll look into that a little more. But everything else looks great, that I could tell.
You showed us a lot of tools that can be used for accessibility. Is there any of them that does reporting so that you can fire a Phantom.js instance and send something there, and then extract this reporting so that you can get some results that you can keep track of?
I don't know. I know that the Axe company, the TQ company, has something that will host it and the test results, and then you can play off of that, and you can have a history of how you fixed it and everything. But it costs a little bit of money.
At least the contrast checker that can be run against Firefox in continuous testing, and that has ASCO Suka has written an integration for us into Robot Framework. So that's only part of the testing, but the accessibility testing can actually be a part of the continuous integration. The problem with continuous integration is that it needs open source tools, because you are actually shipping or downloading stuff into a Travis or a Jenkins container. So most of the proprietary stuff is not allowed. But for the accessibility contrast checker, we have permission from the author to do that.
Cool.
And we should be doing that relatively soon.
Back to labels and placeholders. You said the placeholders are not really used by people using screen readers? Or?
Well, so, at least historically before HTML5, if you put a placeholder in, as soon as you tab into the input box, it disappears. So it's not read. I don't know how HTML5 does it. I haven't played around with the NVDA editor to know. I guess we could try it right now.
So putting information like the format you wish the dates to be in the placeholder is no good idea.
Right.
Okay. And you said get rid of these read more links. Is the solution just throw them away and link the title and the preview image, for example, or is there any?
If I was going to do it, and Plone still used read more, I would append the end of the read more with a span that would actually get the title of that area.
With screen reader
And
only?
I would throw it off canvas.
Yeah.
So it would say, read more about Plone 5.
Most CSS frameworks already have some SR only classes for doing the same.
Okay,
So you can reuse them.
cool. Any other questions or comments?
Maybe we can ask the audience if anyone is using any checkers or, I don't know, tools for automated WCHG, or in Germany we have another system for that. Because we are using a checker, which is discontinued, and we are looking for a tool. We need our CI system to run automated tests, or we want to, at least, and we don't know where to go, what to use.
We use, at Wildcard, we use SiteAware. It's called SiteAware. It's a website, and it goes and tests all those kind of tests, and it gives you results. Does contrast isn't good, and you can go and remedy
But it's
those.
web-based.
It's
So
web-based.
we actually we would like to have a local system,
yeah,
which
I'm
we
not
can
aware.
integrate into our CI, so just to run it every night.
I wonder if Axe does that. Here I go with this again.
So, but there's no one using any other tools like that.
site to get the
No, no,
So I'm not sure if Max would do what you want.
Yes, he just asked whether we run it on the complete site. No, the site is too large, but we would like to give our editors ways to run it manually, web-based. But for the developers, we want to have it in
Sure.
the CI. So
Nothing
thank you.
beats really live testing if you can do it in.
Yeah, of course we do that. Also, we have a department in the university in the computer science for accessibility, and they have blind testers, for example, and we are working with them. But you can't check everything all the time, so
Right.
this is done once.
Yeah, and then Penn State also has three blind people now working for them that test all their websites because, well, they got sued, and you don't want to get sued either if you're some sort of agency of some sort. And you want to do the right thing anyways.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, the theme you're programming is one part of the whole story. The other one is the part that people put into TinyMC.
Right.
And maybe one idea would be to provide a content rule for this. So every time they save a document,
It goes and
some
checks everything.
test is run on the text at least. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. We should try to figure that out. Any other comments, questions? Yes, Max.
Oh, thank you. Just add some comments on the check tools. I haven't really tested myself, but the about July, I think, in this year, the DQ systems in the US, they made their accessibility JavaScript library open source called AXC. And DQ is well-known for web accessibility consultation and such for a long time with their commercial products. But so this might be one of the things that can be integrated into the testing process.
That would be awesome. Thank you, Max.
Any other questions?
I just had a small comment also on this because, well, when you're not disabled, then it's still very, very useful to have these things in place, like the right contrast when you walk outside and it's bright. You can't read some stuff because it's just too light or too dark or whatever. So I think it's a good thing in general to.
I agree with you too, and it's a good thing for search engine optimization. You know, these kind of things. You know, it's real explicit of what's going on, and I think it's there's no bad side to it other than it may take you a little bit more time to do it.
Yeah, and it's important to realize that.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.